introduce you later, but we're already dancing.
And we're live streaming this to my channel too. So it's a little weird if like you're just this random person.
Welcome. I am a random person. I am taking over today. Hello, my name is Shibala, Queen of Lions, and we are currently live streaming the Prosperity Artist podcast to badass creatives.
Yeah, you're right.
As well as recording it where it will be available on Spotify and all the things. And it is my absolute honor, my gift truly, to spend time today and with Mallory and introduce her as my chief of staff.
Making weird sounds instead of that. Thank you. Yes, I am Mallory.
Emote in every version of your emotion that you would like. I give you full permission as I take over and stream on your own channel. So I love this. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all the things with me, including this platform for this very special moment and this very special conversation.
Thank you. And to everybody who is coming to this conversation via my sphere of influence, I don't know what to call it. You know, if you're a badass creative as you were, because I think if you're listening to this, whoever you came to this conversation through, you are a badass creative because you are a product of this universal creation that is life. Therefore, you are a badass creative. This is Shibala, Queen of Lions, who I knew since before she was called that, and I will know her long since then. And I recently took the leap and left my full-time day job for another adventure with Shibala, and I'm so excited about it, y'all.
I love it. And on today, this very, very special moon in Cancer, we are going to be talking about leaps. We're going to be talking about stepping into your visions. We're going to get a little woo-woo here. I'm going to share a bit about human design, astrology of the moment. And if you are watching live, feel free to pop in, say hi, drop a comment. We are here. We are live for those of y'all who are on YouTube. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment as well, because we will check them out. And so with that, let's get into the moons. Mallory, are you into like the moons?
So I did moon salutations this morning. I had a virtual yoga class with one of my favorite yoga teachers
for breakfast. Okay.
Yes. No, I had never done this before until her classes. She will often when it's around the full moon in her yoga classes lead us through moon salutations, which I did not know was a thing, but it's lovely. It's just like a different sequence. And if you're familiar with sun salutations in yoga, it's like a different variation kind of on that, but with like a more feminine, you kind of reverse the order. It's very beautiful. I love it.
I love it. And as I see the numbers popping up for live, you're joining us, say hi. Let us know where you're from. This is Shibala, Queen of Lions, and I'm going to say, both hosting my podcast and guesting on Mallory's Badass Creatives channel. We are sharing today. And for me, Cancer Moon, so I am a Cancer moon. Our full moon is in Cancer. It's a really intense energy for me normally. And then we're blending this Cancer moon in Capricorn season. And so we're getting this beautiful opportunity to really understand how our emotions play a role in our work, and anything that is holding us back or creating dissonance between what we want and our vision moving forward. So our creative visions, our projects, our art, all the emotional things that are holding that back are coming up. Have you been experiencing that, Mallory? Has that been popping for you at all? Or are you, sometimes it's real mellow for people and sometimes you're in it?
Yeah, I've been a little bit of a...
Ooh, we're getting a little...
I don't know what was happening with that feedback. Ooh, the
Okay.
universe is like something's going on.
It's just like the gas will say, shh.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, mm. Well, I think generally I've been in sort of a mellow moment. I've been on vacation. I came back from your house a few weeks ago. I'm sort of in a rest period right now, hanging out at home. The holidays are just coming to a close, and we're starting a fresh year. Uh, but I have not set New Year's resolutions. I did set an intention for this year, which is divine surrender. So trying to lean into that.
And so we'll talk about that. Today's theme is leaps. So one little bit about astrology, and then we'll get more into you. And I want to just jump in and talk about the leap that you recently took, since we're already talking about it with us working together. And then we'll come back in with a more formal introduction and things like that. That's how it's flowing for me. And so as we look at this moment, we talked about what's happening with the moons. What is happening with the sun is that the sun is currently transiting gate 38 in human design. And that gate is all about what are we willing to put energy into? So, what are you willing to fight for? Gate of the Fighter is one of the short names for it that we use. Gate of the Visionary. Like, what is the vision that is worth it for you? And the fun part is, if you're in alignment with that vision, you may be going through a moment of seeing that and seeing it confirmed. You're like, yeah, this is it. This is the thing. This is worth it. And if you are not yet at a place where you're willing to take the risks, especially anyone who has gate 28, like I do in the chart, you may be struggling a little. And you may be seeing just very clearly the emotional risks that you get to take, the conversations that you get to have. It may not be action. It may even just be, am I willing to put myself out there? And I love bringing this up, especially since we are dual streaming. Is that what it's called? Dual streaming. Because we're talking about creative entrepreneurs and just creativity on a whole. And it just feels like the question that many creative entrepreneurs have is so in alignment with this moment that we're navigating. How do I bring all of me, the emotion, the clarity, the truth, and still do this business thing, get things done, and still be in my art?
Yeah. And so often it's like we tell ourselves these stories, or through human design, you might call it conditioning, right? Of like, that the risk is to be yourself, when in fact, I think it's the opposite. It's like the riskier thing is to fall prey to all of that conditioning, to try to fit into a mold that you were never supposed to fit into, to waste your precious moment during this one lifetime, like, and try to be somebody that you're not, and try to waste your time. Like, that's the risk. But so often we reverse it, and we sit in fear, and we run from who we really are, and we don't chase our dreams. And,
So you're a really fascinating person for me, Mallory, because you are both you're both like terrible at fitting into molds and amazing at fitting into molds. Like, you were talking about people putting you in boxes, like you're so good at both.
I will contort myself into a box when I feel it is necessary.
Like, you can do both.
Yeah.
And is that true for you? That's what I see of you. You can do both and do great at it, both ways.
Yeah, I think of it. So we were, FYI, this is the third live stream that Shibala has done today. This is the first one that we're cross streaming on my channel, in case you're tuning in.
Come on, tune in to Prosperity Artists. We have done multiples today.
But we were mentioning earlier how I have so many former lifetimes and like many career paths that I've had, but one of them was that I did drag for a while, and I was briefly a professional drag performer on Bourbon Street for like a month and a half, right? But I think a lot of times about that idea of drag and like putting on this character or this alter ego, right? Or like a superhero cape. And there are so many different ways that we can utilize those personas in our life. Like even back when I used to work in retail, I don't think of myself necessarily as always being extroverted. I think I dance between introvert and extrovert, but I would kind of have to turn it on to work in a retail environment and talk to customers and try to sell them pretty dresses. And it was like you just put on that mask or that cape or that literal dress of the alter ego to do the thing.
But you can, and for you, you can do it, and that can feel fine, right? Or inauthenticity. And others, sometimes they can't. Like, and so that's what's interesting is like I feel like, and I question. So as we start talking about Mallory, right? So Mallory, we're not gonna get. I'm gonna promise. I'm gonna keep this out of human design today. And we will have a really deep discussion about your gifts and your medicine map and what I really view human design to be, which is the outpicturing of the medicine and the rhythm with which you move other people and the rhythm that moves your own life, right? But from a classical human design perspective, you have a split. And so you can be up here in your head, and you can be in your body, and you can be fully connected. And I kind of wonder when you're talking about some of these things, is a version of you where you were like up in your head managing all of that, and then versus a fully embodied experience, does that shift things for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think yes, I have. I think even back in like middle school, high school, there was this classroom moment where we all had to give a presentation about a topic of our choice, I think. And one of the students was essentially presenting on the concept of multiple personality disorders, which I do not have, and no judgment or anything to anybody who has that. But basically they were talking about some of the different things that come up and like, changing voices. And I've sort of always done this where I have different voices that I just naturally go between. Like people who know me really well know that I switch into different modes and different tones of voice depending on who I'm talking to and the context, right? And I definitely have even the ambivert, the introvert, extrovert thing. Like I have different parts of me that I am depending on different situations.
And what's really fascinating is when I look at your design, I'm like, okay, I see that as this massive superpower because you have like when you're in manifestor mode and when you're in generator mode, when you're in your head, when you're in your body, when you're in all of them, because they're all connected in that moment. And you've got this beautiful gift of caution that can kind of toggle things on and off as needed. And your artist that can almost perform separately in each of the parts of yourself. Does that land?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool because it just feels like you are actively conducting the symphony that exists within you. Whereas other people live in that and struggle with it or allow other people to label that as something else.
Mm.
Whether it is like a mental health concern or whether it's just like them, but we need to put you in a box so that we can describe you to the world, right? Often people come to me with different labels and I look at their design and I'm like, we can call it that. We can call it your design, right? And it's like, which one is more empowering to you?
Mm.
But for me, what's fascinating is it almost feels like you've explored all of the different facets of your chart at depth and will allow some of them emerge at some times and some of them to emerge at the other times. And it's just this beautiful like soundtrack that you're creating as we all get to receive it, hear it, witness it, see it. And the depth of control you have in all of that is what I haven't fully witnessed in many other people.
Mm. Well, we all have our superpowers.
So, with that, we're going to jump in and talk about these leaps and this idea, this theme. I wrote leap into authenticity. And it's sometimes people kind of question authenticity and believe that authenticity is you choosing one thing. And that is not what I've seen you do in life. You've chosen many things over time. And so, can we speak to some of those things?
Some of the things I've done or chosen.
Done. And let's bucket it. Let's say in the last like 2 decades. Let's do half the life.
Okay, so like after,
or even in the last decade, because I know you've been a lot, like whatever helps you. But like, what are
it's funny because so Shibala and I both have backgrounds in marketing, which is one of the things, right? And sometimes you know what you quote unquote should be doing or what is like the standard. And this is the problem where like then I personally for myself have trouble following any of those standards because I can't just bucket myself into one thing. I even had a business coach one time look at a very old version of my website, my about page, where it was literally a laundry list of all the things, like all of the multi-hyphenates. And she's like, this is confusing for people. And then I listened to her kind of too much for a long time and tried to shove myself into one little box and it felt too restrictive. And so
it's funny, when we were met, I was working on marketing for multi-passionate creatives. Like the whole thing was, for me, it was like, how do I build a structured box that communicates everything, but also makes it easeful? Like that was like my whole like jam back then. So I love it. But yeah, I want the laundry list.
So, okay, we'll see. There's the marketing piece, right? So even within that, you and I met while we were both teaching business and marketing workshops at Craftcation, which is a craft conference. So anybody who comes from my Badass Creative channel, which is another thing that I do, I've had a handful of other Craftcation folks on my YouTube channel, like Nicole Stevenson. I did a number of videos with her about how to sell at craft shows, right? So I sold at craft shows for like a decade. I wrote a book about selling at craft shows. I've done lots of content about selling at craft shows. I did the drag thing. I've done performing. I grew up as a theater kid. So I'm going back way longer than 2 decades ago, but I grew up as a theater kid and then did, Shakespeare festivals for 3 summers in a row performing in Shakespeare. And then decided that I didn't like the formal education of theater after trying to pursue a theater degree in college, basically, and getting very frustrated. I graduated with a history degree. Then I worked at the Louisiana State Museum for a number of years. I worked in retail. I ran my own craft businesses, taught myself a lot of the marketing stuff the hard way by making mistakes, like completely deleting my website from a server. Like this is 15 plus years.
I met you when you were also like SEO expert.
I taught myself a lot of things about search engine optimization and my websites the hard way by breaking things and fixing them and experimenting. And then eventually went on to work full-time at a digital marketing agency. And then we had a director of marketing role at a software company, taught marketing, developed digital marketing classes for Tulane University School of Professional Advancements.
Professor?
Yeah, adjunct professor.
It was your one-woman show.
Oh yeah, my one-woman show that I wrote and produced and performed. I rented out a theater. I hired a friend to direct me, and then that turned into speaking gigs at universities and for corporations. And gosh, what else?
I have my first medicine woman question that's popping up. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Are you proud of your journey?
Yeah. Yeah. It sometimes feels complicated to explain. I feel like I always even a few days ago, I was at like a New Year's party and was seeing a bunch of like acquaintance type friends that I hadn't seen in a very, very long time, but people who had known versions of me from 20 plus years ago, right? And they were asking me questions in this way of like, how's your business? Or like, how, like they were asking me questions based on the Mallory they knew 5 or 10 years ago. And I'm like, I don't know how to fill in the blank between then and now. So I'm proud of it. It's just sometimes it's having such an expansive life is like, I guess I wonder sometimes if everybody's keeping up or if I'm like being confusing to other people in the way that that one business coach once told me I was being confusing to other people, right?
What year was that by chance?
Ooh, that was actually around the that was like kind of right around the time that my long-term relationship dissolved and right before my own sort of healing journey began. So it was like 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. Just, me personally, I've been like closing so many loops since 2018 today. Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so I love what you said about having such an expansive life.
I
Like,
mean, I hope it's not done. I hope it keeps expanding.
see, right? And it's that Kevin and I, it was coming up for me, it's really funny. It's like Kevin and I would have these issues where we would have amazing experiences with people. And there was this one friend who was really upset because we didn't remember some details from a trip that we took together. But the thing was, that was one of many trips that Kevin and I take together. But for him, that was his one trip. And it was like, this is it. Like, this is my trip. And I realized that we were the people who brought people on these transformational things. And some of them, if they didn't have people like that around them, they wouldn't do anything. And even when they did things the first time, sometimes that transformation wasn't complete. Certainly, this wasn't my job at that point in time. And so that would just be the one thing that just kind of sits there and they would like look at versus it truly becoming a lifestyle and just an invitation to freedom, but in the desire almost to not be confusing to people, we can shrink.
Yeah.
And so, with that, as we have kind of jumped into this business piece, and just to kind of state the obvious, like, right, we're working together now.
Mhm.
So, Mallory, like, explain it to us. Like, what made you?
Why did I quit my steady day job and come work for you 4 months ago or however long it's been?
Yes, and let's talk about human design for a teeny tiny bit. I know I said I wasn't going to go into it, but here we are. Just because I want to talk about how you have something called sacral authority in human design, right? And so, for those of you who don't know human design, it is a beautiful system, birth charting system. I used to say it's like astrology on steroids. Um, but really, it is an amalgamation of so many different ancient wisdom systems, rooted very much in like the Chinese I Ching and the hexagrams in it. I'm going to pop up a link. You can get your free human design chart here. And so, that is one of the mental anchors I use in my deep dive work that Mallory is now supporting me with. And I want to say a year before we started working together, I had like this preview of working with Mallory again in like a deeper way. I haven't pitched Mallory, like, but before that, I saw her in New Orleans,
Oh,
and
yeah, when you came to visit, yeah.
we talked about your human design.
Mhm.
One of the pieces was that Mallory has sacral authority, but with sometimes I find what happens is when you are so talented and when you've gotten so good at maneuvering in this world and kind of fitting in to the extent that you need to get things done, sometimes it can be hard to like follow your gut and go for the thing. And so your design is 100% yes or it's a no, must follow my gut. And my hope is that we can talk about different ways in which you've trusted that in business, in your personal life, in your love life, and we can all kind of receive from that. And so let's start with the business and this recent leap, this recent decision.
This recent decision. Well, yeah, so okay, so Shibala and I first met around 2018-ish, 2017, 2018, somewhere around then. Kind of all roads keep leading back to that year-ish. Is today. And so we knew each other through Craftation Conference. We both had backgrounds in marketing. We kind of identified like, like is like in terms of like some of the ways that, our experience in business. And
we were both like big personalities. Like I was like, I had my afro and my orange and my like flower, and you were like out there with your sequins. And it was a really yummy meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we like stayed in touch, and I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I remember like, I guess it was kind of towards right before everything kind of like shut down with the quarantine with like 2020, early 2020. I think it was around that time, like a few weeks before that, maybe before the world kind of shut down. You had reached out and we're looking for some help with some like technical back end like SEO and email marketing and like connecting all of the like virtual like duct tape pieces together.
It was January 2019. And the wildest part is I have no clue how I knew to reach out to you. But I was like, I think Mallory can help me with this, and I need to figure this part out. And I'd run out of steam too. Like I'd worked really hard to get to that place, and I was like, I can't finish this. Yeah. I need someone with your expertise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we legit saved the day.
So we did some work together then. Because you had a whole number of different businesses. You had like a dance hall, like teaching Jamaican dance hall dance company. You had Camille's and Curls, which was your like handmade flowers, right?
Yep. And the business coaching.
Your business coaching. Yeah. So you had like all the things.
And Mallory was actually setting up, essentially I wanted a corporate level segmentation within my small business. So I wanted a really intense email segmentation and automated triggers on delivery so that I didn't have to do anything. And what's wild, I do want to say this, you set up that system for me once. Like you understood what I needed to do, and I didn't have to really explain it. I was like, and this segment, and you set it up once. And I only touched that once in 5 years after that. And I
was the tech whisperer.
It was so helpful, and I felt like we worked in a way where it wasn't over, like you just got it done in that couple, like that little bit of time. So it became like like I won't call it easeful, but easy enough for you to knock it out and be done with it,
Yeah.
And not drain you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that was kind of like a project sort of working together situation. And then I know we sort of kept like staying in touch, but popping in and out of each other's lives as people often do as adults, right? We both had
really staying in touch. Let's be real for the audience. Like, were we that in touch?
But I feel like it was this thing where it's like we kept popping in and out at these like specific moments. Like you were having a whole dog drama while I was having a whole dog drama.
We had meltdowns. Like basically when things broke, we would find each other and we were both going through the breaking at the same time, right?
Yes.
Around the same topics too. It was
wild. Yeah, it's like the universe kept pulling us together. And even so like I guess like last year we were also kind of on similar like parallel-ish like mom care journeys. Like you were caring for your mom going through a lot of health stuff. I was dealing with like my mom going through a lot of health stuff. Like it's like the universe kept pulling us.
We didn't know it.
Yeah.
Like not really. Like we shared that we shared that, and when we talk about universe pulling us together, we shared that because I needed to drive my mom back to Miami to pack up her home and move her in with me. And I realized that stopping midway meant that I could go see Mallory.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that wild? And that's when we found out we're going through the same shit again.
Yeah. And so that's when you stopped in New Orleans. I remember we stayed, we were like hanging out in the hotel lobby super late at night. She's like basically doing an impromptu session with me and talking through my human design. And that's when that was one of the things you pointed out that day was really about my split definition. So again, not to get too deep into human design, but if you, like basically I have these sort of like defined centers that are like above my neck. Like I have like my head and my ajna are sort of like defined and connected to each other. And then it's completely separate from everything else, including what is my sacral authority, right? So I have this sort of like split thing.
We got like a supercomputer up here.
Yeah.
Very logic based, very like very smart, very clear. And then you have kind of the supercomputer inside that gets to like make your actual decisions, but then you're trying to marry both of those consistently and deciding where like to honor decisions from. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, and I remember during that trip, you gave me this one tip that I then started to kind of implement that I find very helpful. And I will sometimes mention it to people if I find out they are like split definition of sacral authority similar to me, which was that I could try just talking to myself out loud so that my, like the stuff in my head, literally my head could kind of connect with my sacral, which is kind of my gut, right? So I would start going on walks in my neighborhood and maybe look like I had earbuds in to look like I was on the phone with somebody and not talking to myself, but I would talk to myself.
It's wild that you bring that up. And I definitely have used that. And it was funny because it's not something that I read in a book or anything like that, but I realized that when I could get people who had split definition to talk to their body like out loud, I didn't know how to explain it, but like it's like your body can't hear you. So just try that. And it worked. And it's been one of the most, thank you for calling that out. And it has been one of the most productive tools for people. But what's wilder is I was reading all these studies about like there was like one habit, these Instagram things where they send you like one habit that sets like millionaires or whatever apart and da, da, da. And there's a couple that kept coming up, and it's like people who talk to themselves. And they were deep diving into the health benefits of talking to yourself, and it just all makes sense, like emotional release, like, and so split definition or not, talk to yourself out loud. Specifically, I wholeheartedly support that recommendation. And yeah, you can put on some headphones so people don't think you're talking to yourself, but I'm down for it. I feel like it's a conversation starter. Like, so you're talking to yourself. I'm like, yeah, you want to be part of this conversation? Okay, so we've had our little connection moments, and now I really don't know what happened. Did I say Mallory? Oh, yeah. And now I was like, Mallory, if you want to come work for me, it's now. Like I said something like that, right? Like I had this moment where
Yeah, I mean,
this is the moment I have money to pay you, and like I feel it coming or something. Like I had a moment. No?
Well, and so I mean, I remember when you were coming through, you were having some ideas about some possible ways that we could collaborate and things.
Okay, we're going back. Wait, I now am seeing. Okay, I pitched you. So this is my summary, and then you confirm it. I pitched you. You weren't ready yet. / turned me down. Then you did little work for me. Then we kind of broke up. You broke up with me. Let me be clear.
I did not break up with you. I put you on pause. I was like, I gotta.
You're like, I can't do this anymore. You broke up with me. Then you came back, and I was like, oh my God, thank God she's back. And then I was like, if you want to be serious about this, the time is now. It felt like
you were like trying to put a ring on it.
It felt, yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It felt like a like really intense relationship with like someone who's trying to avoid you, and you're just be like, but I fucking love you and I know this is right, so marry me now, or like I'm gone. Like I did not give you an ultimatum, but when I look back at like the journey, it was pretty interesting.
Well, and okay, so this is the sacral authority thing that you brought up, right? Which is so for if you're not familiar with human design, Sacral Authority, which I have, which Shibala has, which not everybody has, but I have it. It is this like gut feeling of like hell yes or like right? And so it's like if you need a full on hell yes for something to be a yes. And when we had worked together previously, or when like these other things came up, I had other stuff. Like we both, like I said, we're both going on journeys with our parents being sick and like, you know, dealing with other life things. Like I was having there's been a whole lot of like life things that have lifed the last few years for both of us. And some of the timing was just like not at a, like I needed the steadiness of like a proper 9 to 5-ish kind of like job, which is, I mean, I've worked remotely for a number of years now, but it was still like those sort of structured, like, you know, traditional-ish job situations. And I was in that. And I think I really needed that as I was going through all of the other like family things. And then we did work together kind of off and on with me helping you kind of on a project basis with some things earlier this year. And there was some more life stuff that happened. Like, cause I think we were working together in March of this year. And then my mom got, you know, had some stuff where she had to go back into the hospital for a couple of days. And I was just having too much going on personally. And I was like, I need a moment. So I didn't break up, but I needed a moment. And I could not fully commit.
The reason I said you broke up was because of the way it was done. You were literally like the fast Mallory voice where you're just like, and I told him around it and I was like, okay, we need space. Fine. But yes, you didn't break up.
But we needed to have or I needed at least to have my own personal journey of listening properly because my sacral was not saying fully like yes right then, and I had other things going on.
Yeah, you did exactly what you were meant to do, and I really believe that journey allows you to be like fully present and locked in now, which was critical.
Yeah.
Because my stuff is so dynamic that you having doubt would have destroyed me.
Yeah.
Because both, not only am my stuff dynamic, but your energy is so powerful that it would have put me into a spiral because I wasn't where I needed to be either in terms of like emotional resilience, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can continue to sort of work together in you know, a not unofficial, but a much more like smaller, you know, way throughout this year. Cause I remember in the summer, I was dealing with some frustration at my then day job. And with some other like work project situations that I had taken on. And I remember a specific conversation where like you called me out on some language that I kept repeating, some like language of obligation, essentially, some language of being trapped and stuck and like all of these things. And I think there might have been a time when you called it out before, but like this one in particular, like really was the time that it like broke for me because then I ended up taking the next day off of work and I was like going back through journals from like the last year or two. And I saw the words literally in my journals. Like I kept repeating this language again and again in all of these different, mostly like work and professional settings of being trapped and stuck and all of this stuff. And you were kind of pointed out, and it's true. It's like, that wasn't the case. Like I was not actually beholden to anybody. I was telling myself a story that I was, but I was, you know, free to leave at any time. And then
since you brought this up, can I poke? So since you brought it up, you actually just said a couple sentences ago that you needed the job, that you needed a full-time 9 to 5 in that moment. And that's kind of the, it's because you didn't talk about like words of obligation. Need is a word of obligation.
Yeah.
And you can choose something because you feel like that will be the most comfortable or even the best like outcome for you. But when we attach need to it, is where we can get into the loop that Mallory's talking about and get into the stuckness of it.
Yeah.
And so the question is, did you need it?
Well, no, and that's a really good call out. I mean, I think looking back, I think it's that I wanted that security of that type of job, right? Of the job with all of the benefits and the like, set salary and like all of those things. And even probably even a level of, all of those like boring work meetings that happen in those kind of jobs, right? Because working with Shibala does not flow in the way that working in my last couple of like corporate-ish jobs did, where you've got like the weekly check-in and then you have this level 10 meeting or like whatever. Like it is not like that working with Shibala. And that part of me back then with all the other stuff going on wanted that kind of rhythm and routine.
And I think that part, like, if we could pause there, because especially when we talk about like creativity and people who are badass creatives, creatives get to have breaks and need space. And I believe that in this environment, sometimes we poo poo the normal job. So, like, for me, I fucking loved my corporate experience. Everything about my corporate jobs I enjoyed, with the exception of some of the people. I liked going to the meetings. I felt my meetings were effective. I enjoyed consistency. I liked playing with other people's money, and I like getting paid six figures. And it was really easy for me, the actual work. And it was just the politics that I couldn't understand. And if I could have found a company that truly like valued me and wanted continuous growth, I would have stayed there. It was just that my role needed to be more of like an internal consultant for a company that really wanted growth. But had those things happen, it would have been fine. But people are so upset, and like it makes sense. Like, I'm very much anti um the machine and the system of capitalism that, on a whole, undervalues people, etc. But what I have found is that when you value yourself, you can function in these systems and still enjoy them. But people make like people you we allow people to create shame around this.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like boring, like it's shameful to want security or a rhythm, or like, that's not true for me, at least.
No, and one of my favorite stories about that kind of like job creating space is like because we do live in this system that we've all been born into, where we have bills to pay and mouths to feed, and like we have like
Many of us live here in that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, some of us have broken through of
Exit.
that, but
Yeah.
I would say the vast majority, if you're watching this on YouTube, like you're probably like you might have taken part of it in some point. But like there's like a famous anecdote about Albert Einstein kind of famously worked in, I think it was a patent office, like in, I think it was like Zurich or something. I could be mangling the story, but like when he was coming up with the theory of relativity, because he had to still pay his bills, he had to put like a roof over his head and food on the table. But having that sort of like mundane day job actually was like gave him space to be able to sort of like play with the creativity of all of the physics and the math to be able to come up with one of the most like earth-shattering ideas of the 20th century.
Yeah. My husband has been really inspiring with this too, because he has so many creative visions, ideas, etc. But he's literally been like, no, right now I want stability. And what's tricky is, the reality is, there's nothing that's stable. Corporate is not stable. And I am like massive testament to that. But he's like, okay, fine. Then right now I want what feels like stability. And this feels like stability to me right now. And this is my choice. And I'm like, cool. As long as it's a conscious choice. And so for me, as you're talking about this, I think what I'm hearing is how, and I feel like we talked about this in our last conversation. Like, when I make a contract with somebody, it gets fulfilled. And so at some point in time, there was a Mallory who wasn't fully satisfied with her work. And I was like, we can work together. We can work something out. I can give you money. Like, we can work this out. And like, it was going to get fulfilled at some point in time. And so, like, once I knew, like, once we had that conversation, and I knew, like, Mallory isn't satisfied here. Mallory isn't being, in my estimation, she's not in an environment where she feels seen and really, the word I like to use, which is a little weird, is like used up, like where you really feel like all of your gifts are truly being, like, your potential is being maximized, and that you're truly being of service in the way that's possible for you. There are people, like, I'm that type of way, and I know you're that type of way, that they want that. They want to feel that. And I think that, I know that when I felt that, and I literally remember I was in someone's bathroom because we were like on that journey, and she had all these, like, she actually had like those like those really decked out bathrooms with like this type of stuff. What is this? Like the lace and the this and I was like a real old school bathroom. And I remember talking to you on the phone, and I'm like, she's not fulfilled, and she's not fully getting to be in her power. And that part of me was like, we can do something about this. Like, nah, like I'm like, I would so benefit from your support, like, and your energy. At that time we were talking about doing a dual thing. And I was like, you can do your thing, I can do your thing. You're like, we were that at that point in time, it wasn't about like working, you know, I still feel like you work with me, but working as my like employee per se, it was like a joint collaboration. But I was like, fuck this. Lead those people, and let's, like I was gonna say, lead those, but and let's build some shit. We can sell some things. We know it. We can work this out. Like, it was that, and it's like the moment the vision comes for me, I know at some point in time it will come through, and or at least I will drag you through your experience to the point where at some point in time you'll be like, okay, I'm not actually unhappy, I'm fulfilled. Yeah. Like, so either you're going to adjust your life, or you're going to realize you're kind of there. And so my question is, like, at what point in time where you're like, oh shit, this has been going on for long enough, it's time to move?
Yeah, I mean, well, like, so it was mid-July, I think, earlier mid-July, when you and I had that conversation where we sort of pointed out some of my language that I've been using, right? I started doing some of that work, identifying that. And then a few weeks later, at that job situation, there was basically this situation where I'd been working on this one project that was using a lot of like my ideas and creativity, that I was getting like lots of applause, and like people were like really enthusiastic about it. And then all of a sudden, I was like told, oh, they said that they weren't scrapping it. They said that they were postponing it, but it kind of just felt like it had been publicly announced before like everybody in the company. And then all of a sudden it was like snatched away. And it just felt like this like slap in the face on top of a lot of other stuff that had already been frustrating me, essentially. And so then, like, I mean, early August, I remember I took like a week or two off of work. I just used up a bunch of vacation because I could tell I was either going to like just lose it and just quit just out of frustration or something. And then like a couple weeks after that, you and I just ended up catching up. Like, we were on a conversation like this, but on Zoom for like 4 hours one night. And the next morning I'm at a yoga retreat, and you're texting me, and you were like, what would it take for you to leave your job?
Well, I was like, yeah, I was like, how much do I have to pay you?
Yeah. You were like, here's how it would all work. Here's my plan for like all of this. This is what you're telling me.
I don't really remember this because it was a channel, but I do remember like the moment where I was like, how much did she cost? Like, how does that work out?
Yeah. And so it was right timing.
It was in June, right?
What?
It was in June.
No, this was Labor Day weekend. This was end of August.
Oh, this was the like final, like
This was the final.
Because remember in June there was a chunk because I was talking to you while I was in Africa.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Well,
So
I asked you something and like you messaged me in Africa and you're like, because there was a moment where you were like, can we still do this thing? Because I'm ready.
so
And
yeah.
then-
Okay. So Shibala and I are both manifesting generators in human design, right? So like we both have sacral authority, right? So like at the core of it, I'm a generator. So my authority is to say like yes, no to something in the moment. But I was trying to manifest things a little bit. Like earlier in the summer, I was a little frustrated already with some stuff. And I was just I was spending too much time on LinkedIn looking for jobs. I was just trying to like drum up all of my possible options. And I was texting Shibala.
It was on my birthday too, by the way. I remember because I thought it was a gift from God. It was on my birthday. Yes.
I know, because I did not have your birthday in my calendar then. So I didn't even consciously realize.
I didn't even reply to you. I was just smiling. But yeah, you remember that was important too. But yeah. So you were texting me and you were like, I have this opportunity. It might work out. Because at that point in time, I was thinking about still part-time.
Yeah. And there was another thing that was another potential part-time opportunity. And I was sort of like, if I could do this
How many hours did you have for me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to like Jenga puzzle my way into a situation that would like not fall down.
I think what's also funny is like in this situation, like both of us were like risk adverse. Because there was part of me that was like still in the like part-time, and you do work less hours, but it still like works out for you, like, you know, without getting into the details. And you're like in a very different rhythm. It's like work, sprint, break, right? And so
which works better for my energy, actually.
Right. And so it's just but it's wild. But all of this to say, I wanted to talk about the moment you made the leap.
Yeah.
Because there was some resistance, right?
I mean, there was like, let's talk through the logistics. Let me, with my full, like, defined head in Ajna Center, let me understand all of the stuff that
Can I talk about this specific thing I'm thinking of?
Sure,
are we completely transparent here?
Yeah.
The insurance.
Oh, yeah. Well,
let's talk about that resistance.
I mean, do we need to open up the can of worms that is health insurance in freaking America? I mean, because that's the problem, really. It's not, I mean,
because what was interesting is I was like, you got the sacral. It felt like you got the sacral, yes. And you were like, I'm ready. But then it was like, I gotta figure out this insurance. And I was like, okay, go figure out how much it costs. And there was just a block there.
Yeah, I mean, so when we have a inner knowing, we can still have fear, right? I think that's ultimately what this comes down to, because as I mentioned, you and I had both just recently been through health journeys with our moms. And for me, the recent one was not the first one. Like, luckily, the recent one, she is now on Medicare and, you know, she's over 65, but she's a 3-time cancer survivor now. And the first one was like before the age of 50. And I am, you know, like now over 40, I'm having screenings. Like, I just want, you know, I'm like, I need to be practical and like make sure that I have some sort of health care. Because she went through cancer the first 2 times with no health insurance. Like, I grew up in a family of small business owners. They never had health insurance because, like, for them, it made more sense to self-insure until it absolutely did not make sense. But then it was too late. So I had a lot of fear around that.
So got it. And then what was funny though for me is like that was this very interesting moment where we kind of switched places, and I was really logical, and I'm like, just look it up, find out how much it costs, and let's work it into your salary. Like, it was like, just go look it up. And then the fear was so intense that little action of just like looking it up and looking through the details was like, it became monumental.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just funny because we actually ended up like doing it together.
We literally were like on a Zoom where I was opening like, you know, healthcare.gov on a window. I
don't know what to do. I'm like, go to healthcare.gov, do this, click on that. Like, it was hilarious. And it was just so that we could get to a number, right?
Yeah. Just like an estimate.
And then you got to make your decision after that. But I thank you for sharing that because we're here, we've done like three things. We're talking about leaps, and we have the multiple conversations for today. So we have Josh Han's conversation, which was amazing and empowering, and talking about her journey of motherhood. We've talked about my spiritual journey. But one of the things I don't think came up was when things are aligned, but you still, and it makes sense because Josh and Han and I, we don't have the head, and we don't have the gate of doubt, which you have. And so we don't have, like, once we've locked in, it's maybe a little easier because we don't have that head saying, yeah, but logically, you really gonna take that job with the woo lady that you don't know? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no, you have an additional thing to align in your essence.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fear before the leap.
Yeah, well, and even the way, I mean, do you remember the way that I described the feeling or like the vision that I was having of like the metaphor for what we were doing?
Oh yeah, like literally jumping off. You were literally like, we are jumping off a cliff.
Yeah,
We're like
but
hands and jumping off a cliff, and knowing there's like a safe, like a little blanket or pillow or something we're
or
landing.
like what I imagined was like literally like a beautiful tropical pool, which I'm going to guess is in
Going
Tulum.
to Tulum.
And here's the irony is that actual Mallory, as much as I was ready to jump off the metaphorical cliff, I really don't want to jump into a pool of water off of a cliff. I also don't really love like diving into water. So that's my actual fear.
That's fine. Oh yes. Like we have fear. I love that. And it's bringing up something for me personally, which is I'm starting to fully appreciate that what's coming through. It's very hard to vocalize this, but like it seems like fear is something that comes with me. Um, and there's a lot of reasons. Like we can get into so many funky things, like the isms, like the racism, the oh my god, she's Haitian and she does magic things. And now I'm like, is it voodoo? And like, like there's so many things, but fear and transformation go hand in hand. So if you're an agent of transformation, um, the expectation is that like fear and people having fear gets to be part of your journey in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to another medicine woman question for you. Are you ready for it?
Sure.
Where does your discomfort with confusing people come from? You've mentioned a couple of different times in different ways. You have, like, with you having such a rich and robust set of experiences in your life, and with you transitioning through them with ease or with intention, sometimes you have to explain things to people, or they're asking you a question about previous Mallory, and your words were, it can be confusing for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we brought up like, okay, if I'm talking to myself, I don't want people thinking a certain thing. So that's like another theme of confusion. And so confusion has come up a few times along the way. And with so much of you being about embodying the unexpected, then I wonder, this fear of confusion and confusing people, where does it come from?
I mean, I think there's like a, fear of being misunderstood, right? But I think if I dig deeper to that, there is this need to belong, which actually, like, the more I'm like, I was like pulling this thread as you're asking me the question. That was the crux of what I wrote a freaking play and a book about. Was ultimately about that. And I think, as humans in these bodies, like we all have a need to belong. Like there is a primal, like we literally cannot survive on our own. Right? It's like, we can't just like some creatures in the wild, they're born and they're immediately just like on their own, right? They don't grow up with a tribe, they don't grow up with a family, they don't grow up with like a mother. They're able to just like go and be in the world. But human beings are not that, right? Like, we need other people. And if you think back to like, hundreds of thousands of years ago, like, yeah, if we didn't have other people, we would just be like, literally perishing, like eaten by an animal or something.
And this is what you're bringing up, though, is kind of scary because we're moving into a world where people feel like they don't need other people, or they're replacing the need for people with like digital companionship.
Yeah, I know, it's terrifying.
There's still a need for people because like people are ultimately going to be fueling your services. Like, people are growing food and but they're
ChatGPT is not buying your
right. But there is this idea that robots could take over and those things, and like, but so like there is almost this like I can hear the person on the other side of this pod being like, no, you don't need people. I'm a hermit out my ass. And like, like I can feel like that resistance. And so
well, then where's your joy, hermit in the middle of the woods by yourself?
And so that's it. Like, and it's like, if your joy, if you are a person who, like Mallory and like me, like our joy and our fulfillment comes from people, right? And from those interactions, then it seems like what I'm hearing is the vibration of confusion for you has been an indicator that that connection isn't happening in the way that you expected or that it should, or like, is that trying to?
I think there's that idea of being misunderstood. There's something there also with like being seen, and being seen like fully or truly or authentically, back to the title and topic of this whole conversation, right? And speaking of that, like, even with the example of like the person who says they're totally fine and happy being the hermit in the woods, like, I do think that there's a spectrum of like, maybe introvert, extrovert, whatever you want to, like, we have different levels of energy, all of us, like, we all have different levels of like
there are hermits in human design.
Right. And, in human design, there's like, my husband is a splenic projector with like 2 defined centers. He has a different energy level and like a capacity for being around people than I do. But at the end of the day, like, we're not supposed to just like live on a deserted island with no other people around us. Like, like they use, they stick people alone in isolation as torture, as literal torture. Like,
but at the end of it, some of them find intense peace because they ultimately get to the place where they understand that even in complete solitude, they are not alone, and they connect to the trees and the environment and the nature, and they get to like essentially transcend their human. And so like we're getting
some people like
we're getting real deep, and that's not to put that on you, but to come back to that idea of confusion. One of the things that I was sitting with and why I asked you that question is that if we do like, let's, I love how we've really gotten deep in the human design. It was like, you're not going to do it. We're going to do it. Watch me. So, so you are something called right angle cross of the unexpected. And we've talked about the breadth and depth of your experiences. And one of the things I was saying is, for me, that really feels like the symphony of all the parts that make up Mallory, and her really like pushing the boundaries of every single thing that's in you and expressing all of them. Like, that's literally how I see it. But just as I said that fear comes with me because transformation is with me, if you bring unexpected, then of course there's confusion.
Yeah.
That's part of the process of them seeing the miracle that is you. And so the question becomes like, if I truly am standing in all of me, because ultimately you're going to be reflecting at all times where people are inflexible, where they haven't changed, because they're going to see you change and be like, oh shit, she's doing a whole thing, where they maybe don't see like their full freedom or their full creativity or their full expression. And so them being confused is them asking questions, is them in curiosity. And curiosity, I think, was literally part of one of your frameworks.
Yeah. Yes, it is the wheel of weird in my book and my show. Yeah. Yeah. It's the first part.
And so
Calling me out. Yeah.
the confusion, you can't get past this one. The confusion, maybe if I was on your podcast without dual podcasties, I would no, it would just happen. But anyway, I wouldn't go at you like now. You agreed to it. I asked, but
I consented.
I'm looking at, do you continue to consent?
Yeah.
Cool. The confusion to me is the initiation you're creating for people. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's the initiation. It's for them to be like, my gosh, this is possible. And some people will balk at that and label you in certain ways.
Yeah. And
that hurts.
Yeah. And I think, when we're younger, not that it always hurts less the older you get, but at least in my experience, I think there is some shedding of some of that comes with age or growth or experience, maybe growth more than age, because those two are not always, I know those two are not always related, right? And I also think that there is so much wisdom sometimes in children. I think even back to my own conscious thoughts that I had as a very young child of sort of realizing that sometimes adults do not give kids credit, and they have so much wisdom that they have not yet stamped away, that often gets stamped away as we grow up, right? But yeah, I think I did take on certain things as I grew older that I've started to shed some of that, and I'm still trying to shed some of the rest of it.
Let's talk about that, because you were in, since we're talking on the human design thing, this idea is when we are in union with other people, it's a little bit harder depending on who we're in union with, and depending on how they've really embodied their own experience, to just be you and to see yourself. And for me, so much of my love journey was me feeling initially seen by someone and then dissolving into them. And so let's talk about love. Let's talk about your biggest leap in love. Look at your face. She's like, oh, I love him.
You want to talk about my sweet projector hubby? Is that what we want to talk about?
I need to call you out for a second. I would like to talk about the fact that Mallory loves her husband so much, and she's always like, my husband. You love saying,
because
I enjoy it. But
because so Shibala and I had a conversation yesterday, the day before, kind of talking through ideas for this. And so as a preface to my current love, I've talked about this even before on my channel. I spent most of my adult life from age 20 to 35 in a 15-year relationship with somebody else who we never got married. I never got married. He was never actually my husband. Some people might have, said that or whatever, but he was never my husband. I never called him my husband. We were not married. And ultimately, I am kind of grateful for that, because Andy, my husband, gets to be my one and only husband. That was part of my wedding vows, and I'm so grateful that is the case. So, but yeah, I did spend a really long time in a relationship that I did not really know how to listen to my sacral. I used a lot of logic. I logicked my way into staying in that previous relationship multiple times, so many times.
I'm only doing this because I'm the amount of times I logicked my way into staying in relationships is
yeah.
Okay. let's take a second. I just want to set up the stage so you can release anything you need to say. I logicked my way into staying with a relationship of a guy who used a joint email account to fish for hookers on Craigslist while I was away. And who lied to me about it. I only found out about it because I went into my trash because it was my email address and saw him doing that. And somehow I forgave him. Like, I was like, and I understand your pain. I understand why you did it. Like, it was the beginning of, again, my medicine woman journey. But like when I wasn't officially a medicine woman, hadn't trained in this, and I was like, I see everything and I love you and it's okay. But I like logic, like it was both under with him, that was sorry, that one was understanding, but it was like a deep understanding that led to logic. But then I had other logic stuff that was crazy. I logic my way into somebody. He hit me. And thank God we were like not fully together, but he got very upset because there was people attracted to me in bar and may have tried to plant a kiss on me. And he got upset by all the attention. And like it was a funky, it wasn't quite a hit. It was almost hit me. And I logicked that out and like made myself like the reason for it. Like, and anyway, I logicked some crazy shit. And many wild things. I had one that had like certain proclivities in the bedroom that were just like off as fuck. Excuse my French. And
They were not for you.
no, these were like rooted in a desire to harm others, and not in a like consenting adult type situation way. And I was like, okay, if that's what you need. And what's interesting is so much of my medicine is healing love. And it was in feeling fully accepted that these folks ended up clearing these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I allowed myself to logic myself out of self-love and logic myself into giving while completely ignoring self-love. And I've watched people do that. I've watched people use their spiritual calling to put themselves in dangerous and concerning positions and keep themselves there. The last bit I'll say is I had one friend, not client, similar design to yours, and that disconnection. And literally she ended up becoming a sex worker, and she stayed in that space because she realized she had a talent for helping people who are really messy with their desires. Like they were acting out a place of shame, power, funkiness. And so she was a sex worker in that space in a very unsafe way. And as she started being assaulted by clients, she was starting to logic her way into that and maintaining that, and basically like sacrificed her own body as like the vessel. And I don't know where she is now, because again, it wasn't like a professional capacity, and we spoke on that, like, and I was very honest with like, you don't need to do this. And I believe she's no longer doing it in that way. But there are some people who just give so much of themselves. And I see you as that type of person, like deeply, hence why I think it's coming up in this way. And so I just want to throw that out there of like, I've been in these positions, I've seen people in different positions. And so as we're moving into this idea of like 15 years of your life with one person, unmarried, not because you're not someone who didn't want to be married, but clearly that wasn't aligned, thankfully. Did you lose yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I think I lost parts of myself for sure. Yeah. Because even it's funny, even having this conversation, talking about like human design and various, like all of the stuff that we talk about when I'm like there in that office with you, right? The Mallory that was with him, my ex, would be like, what, who are you now? Right. And part of that was, I remember having like a level of like spirituality and stuff as a kid and when I was younger. But I think that's one of the things that I really did lose along the way with him, amongst other things. But like, he was such a staunch atheist, and like in a way that like it was like very like judgmental and like not accepting of other people who believed of any type of like religious spiritual background, right? And I think I logicked my way into a lot of that too. And that's one of the interesting things, because now with Andy, like I wouldn't say like, so when Andy and I
And
got,
Andy is her sweet husband.
Andy's my sweet husband. Andy's my sweet husband. So it's funny. So Andy and I had known each other through mutual friend groups, and the ex like was part of all of those mutual friend groups, right? Like, they've met each other and stuff years ago. And so we sort of crossed paths like a lot of times, like way early on. And I was telling Shibala the other day when we were chatting about this, like, even if Andy and I had both been like single earlier on, that wasn't the right time, because Andy was also on his own journey. Like he didn't spend 15 years in a relationship with one person, but he had his own journey. And like, he had an ex that he had like similar kind of, messed up relationship with, that had a lot of stuff that then he had to learn his own lessons with and move past. And I think the fact that when we like reconnected when we did, so he and I both were at this place, both like, I think I was like almost 40. I think he was like 40 at the time. Right. And we were both at this place where we had gotten on Tinder kind of as like I don't think I actually want to date anymore, but let me just like, this was my point of view, I was like, if I'm not going to do it, let me at least like have this app to say that I at least tried this app, what is this app?
If I had been like single in the time of Tinder and stuff like that, I totally would have been swiping just to see. I'd be like, let me see what booty call comes through. Let me see how this is to like be on a date like this. I never got to do digital dating, so I would have totally like been like, let's see how this thing works.
Yeah, it was like, even television is talking about these. Like, I guess I should have done it as like a bucket list item, right? And I had been using like some like Bumble or something right before that. I'd been on a couple days and was kind of already at this place of like, I'm good by myself. Like, I don't actually, this is fine. And coincidentally, like he was actually at the same place. We ended up having this conversation like a few weeks after we started dating. But so we ended up having the app, and like, one of the first people I saw was him. And it was when I swiped on him, it was more of like oh, hey, I remember Andy from our mutual friend circles. Right. And we started chatting. And even our first date, I went into not thinking of it as a date. It was like a very casual sort of like meet up with friends that ended up turning into like an 8-hour meet up with friends, where he like walked me back to my apartment. There was a kiss at the end, and the rest is history.
Go Andy.
Yeah, go Andy. But like, and one of the things with him too, so I remember, I feel like sometime in the year before I reconnected with Andy and we started dating, I remember hearing Glennon Doyle on her podcast, or like one of the podcasts with Glennon Doyle, the author of like Untamed. She has a podcast with Abby Wambach, the soccer player. They got together, they had a whole thing. I remember them talking about when they first got together and how it was like this, like, you're in love. This idea of like, you hear people talk about it. Like, if you've never been like fully in love and you hear people talk about it, and they're like, you just know. Because I remember, when I was like a teenager or something, you're like, how do you know? Right. And I thought that I knew from that 15-year relationship and all these other things. Like, I thought that I knew, but like, I did not know, because the thing that I felt when Andy and I got together, those first couple of months, it was, luckily Glennon Doyle had described this as like, you feel like you're on drugs. Like, I mean, like, but beyond any other sort of like feeling like you're on drugs before, like, it was like, I don't even know. was just like this knowing, this like deep, deep, deep knowing. And even we're talking about fear earlier, right? Like I had this one moment a few weeks in where I sort of like I felt the bigness, the expansiveness, like the depth of like what this was that Andy and I had this like prickle of fear. And luckily, I didn't even have the words to human design yet, but like looking back, I sort of had this like leaning into my sacral and my body and just like letting myself just fall into it and just release and just trust that it was going to be okay. And it has been, and it is.
I love how you talk about how sometimes the fear is really because there's a part of you that understands like the bigness, to use your words, of the choice that you're about to make.
Well, and I think even you know, with me having grown up doing theater and then like going on to like create stuff that is me saying my own words on a stage in front of a big audience of people, right? Like I think most performers, most actors, most people on a stage who really care about their craft probably have this feeling. I've heard lots of performers describe this, right? Is that no matter how long you've been doing it, I think you often will still have this nervousness right before you walk on stage. And it's not because you don't know what you're supposed to do, but it's because you care so freaking much, right? Like it's because you care about the thing that you're going to do. And that's where the nervousness or that's where the fear comes from. It's because you actually care.
More and more, I'm calling it like anticipation. Because like sometimes I'm like, am I nervous? And I'm like, no. And what helped me with that one is like my sometimes I'm still nervous, but what helped me with this is my medicine woman journey. So when I know, like when I'm with a person, and it's funny to say this, I've never said this out loud, but we'll just tell all. Because I felt this with you and it was really funny. Like when I know there's the thing that they have to release it and they're about to release it. Like when we had a moment where we were playing music and we were releasing things. Before that, like I feel it and I'm like, oh, I think it's gonna move. I think they're going to make that leap. And I feel a tingle. And I'll laugh because I have to ground myself when I feel it. I ground myself and I'm always like, allow me to act in alignment with like whatever is right for this person and right for the moment, alignment with integrity and like literally release. I need to, for the work I do, when I feel that tingle, I pause, I ground, I release any personal motivation, you know, especially because sometimes I get to wait because the person isn't going to get past the resistance. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But I like literally feel like, okay, it's the moment. And it's not nervousness because it really is excitement and because I've done it so much that I know, but I'll be like, oh wait, it's here. And it only happens when I'm surprised by it, but it's like, it's just there. And then I'm like, okay, you got this. And then I get to wait and see if they'll actually consent, choose, move, etc. But it's interesting because it'll be interesting now that we've talked about this, when that feeling comes up again, for you to lean into it and be like, okay, is this fear? Is this nervousness? Is this anticipation? Because sometimes I'll sit with them like, which one is it? And to use your words, or is it like the recognition of the bigness? Right? Because isn't that fucking amazing? Whether we choose the thing or we don't choose the thing, the fact that we are witness to the bigness and that we know that that bigness is present in our lives and can be an option in the future. because, whether sometimes people will think this is my one shot, I miss it. I have evidence, and certainly Mallory does, that it comes back over and over again in different ways, right? So you said stage. Let's talk about stage. So there was this really fun moment, and no, there's something I get to say, because I don't even remember. I don't know if you remember one of the first interactions I had with you that was deep, was me listening to you talking about your past relationship for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and in and out. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's true.
And again, not in my medicine woman back then, officially, but like, remember just staring into your eyes, and you were just like, just having a whole conversation with yourself. And I was like, she's so beautiful. And you're just like going and going and going, and like in your mental loops and mental loops. And it's, I say that to just give the reflection of how nice it is to see you with your husband.
Thank you.
Like and knowing that you have so much nurturing and provider energy in your chart.
Yeah.
It's yummy.
Well, thanks.
Really yummy. Okay, and so next up, stage. Let's wrap this up. Let's talk about one last leap. And you talked about a stage, and we're going to talk like a personal leap. And one of the really cool moments in my life is when you called me. You're like, "Hey, Shibala," and I love you because you're so honest and transparent. And in our interactions, I've just always felt like I can trust this human. And in this moment for me, why Mallory was so critical was that I did not feel like I could trust pretty much anyone. And even though like my mom and my husband have the absolute best intentions for my business, they'd seen me go through so much pain and so many restarts and so many things that there was doubt. And I'm like, I can feel it. And I just need someone I can trust to stick with it and not be like, baby, you can quit. You don't have to do this. Stop this. Like, I needed someone who was going to be like, I know you know that. So let's focus on what we're going to do. Like, and so it was that trust. But it's both funny because like coming back to the stage thing, one of the fun moments where you popped in again was like, hey, Shibala, there is this group and they would like to have, but you were so specific. You're like, they don't have diversity in their program and they probably like need some help and they're trying to invite some people. Would you like to come? And you invited me to this like several $1,000 like speaking opportunity to do like this fun weekend. And it was out of the blue. And I flew up and went to New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey.
And I want to say something because this was this was one of your big leaps. And you brought me along for part of it. And what I don't think you know is that, so from the beginning, I was like, this is what I need to do. I need to be paid for speaking. I talk. I talk. People transform. I talk a lot. Why don't I just do that? Like I literally, and then I was like, okay, I need a YouTube channel, but I did not have your courage. And I had a lot of things holding me back. And we talked about that on the last episode where I shared my story on Prosperity Artists. And I had this thing within me where I knew like that bigness had come in a couple of opportunities and I knew the stage was for me. And you'd met me on stage.
Yeah.
But I lost that a bit. I lost it was like the clarity, it was there, but it always came in and out. And it was there in like, I can do this now and I can build my own brand now. I think I'd gotten to that place where I was going for it. But this idea of connecting back into corporate and being back into like more of a professional speaker capacity and getting paid for it, not just paid because I'm on the stage and people buy things, but paid for the appearances. And that was like a consciousness, but it wasn't an understanding that people actually trained in this, worked in this. I don't know anything about voice lessons. Like these were things that, like, it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, wait, so people just learn this? I can just learn this? Like, I was like, I thought that this had to be natural. And it was a whole, I'm like, there's a process for this. And so I want to tell you, because I don't think you know this, because I went there and it was an interesting experience. And like, they learned some things from me. I learned a bunch from them. And it was cool for me. But that was this moment that truly anchored in my mind the belief, like, oh no, you can do this, you can learn this, there's a process for it, it's not a mythical thing, you can get paid. And also, like, there is a desire and need for people like you in this space. Like, that was really important. And then also, which seeing you work with university, that was also really important. And the results of that are coming, and you'll probably get to witness them. But that moment was very important. And I don't think I ever got to tell you like the thank you. And so I want to say thank you for considering me and choosing me for that, because it made a big difference for me. Also, I like legitimately needed to get out of my house. No, I really did.
I needed a weekend away.
That trip, the space was like needed. And it also like affirmed, like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I'm choosing these things. And I really think that it gave me the confidence actually to pitch Teachable, because they wanted to have me do something, and they were like, pre-record something, and I'm like, nah, I'm really good live. You should get me live. Like, I had the confidence to just like go out there, because it was more like, okay, I had the education and the exposure.
Yeah.
Thank you. And now let's talk about what we're talking about.
What this program
opportunity, like, and what made you do it. And
yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier, so I grew up like a theater kid, right? So I've always been like, put me on a stage. And I went to college. I started out as like a theater major, and then like dropped it to a minor, and then like graduated a couple production credits short of it because school made me have feelings about that you can't teach art or something. Anyway, even though there's ways that you can learn methods, I was having a rebellious streak. So anyway, but then I spent like, I don't know, like a decade plus away from the stage after this whole stuff in college of like kind of getting like frustrated. And then I started doing drag. I did this like drag workshop with a friend in New Orleans who was like teaching drag performance, and kind of realized I missed the stage. And around that same time, I had started through my marketing job doing some like teaching and education of our small business owner clients about marketing things, right? Which then kind of led to me speaking in front of small groups of business owners. And then I suddenly, like you, was like, along the way, somehow realized that there are these things called professional speakers who get paid to speak at conferences, right? Like somebody's got to be up there on stage when you have the whole association of whatever at the big hotel downtown, right? That's a job that people have. And so along the way, I had realized, I was like, this is the thing that I want to do. I want to be a professional speaker. I want to like be on stages. And I had come across this guy, Michael Port, who is like the founder of this program that Shivala was talking about. He has a program called Heroic Public Speaking, right? And I had heard him on like somebody else's podcast, and then started listening to his podcast, and then heard him interview this guy, Eric Wall, who I'm not even sure if Eric Wall does speaking stuff anymore, but at the time, he really blew me away because he was telling these stories about being inspired by like rock and roll artists, but he was a painter. He would do live painting on stage while speaking about creativity for like corporate audiences.
Cool.
Right. So he's like combining all of these things and kind of doing this like out of the box thing. It's not just like a guy in a suit walking around on stage talking about like, here's what you should do for your next quarter earnings to like make a lot of money. It was like, It's like, and then I was like, well, how do I do that? But like my version of that, because I can't paint well enough to go paint on stage. I was like, I want to do something though. Like, I was like, I don't know what, but like costumes and sequins and weird characters and voices and the thing that people were like judging me for, essentially, like, how do I just do that? I'm not sure. And so the heroic public speaking people and Michael Port, they end up hosting a conference of their own, right? Like basically like their own little like mini event in Philadelphia. And this was, I think the tickets went on sale kind of around the same time in 2018, the notorious year when my relationship, that 15-year relationship's all about to like blow up and implode and finally fall apart for good. And looking back, buying those tickets to that event, the first time was a sacral yes. I was like, I don't really quite have the money to fly to Philadelphia and go to this conference, but I'm going to do it. Right. So I did that. So I end up at this conference in Philly. It's like a 3-day conference. And this ended up being like a couple months after I'd left this 15-year relationship. So I'm off on my own in a city. And they have all these different sessions, like voice lessons, and it's bringing me back to actually before I hated all of the stuff about learning theater in a school environment, like all the stuff that I loved, because I did 3 summers at the Shakespeare Festival at Tulane. And in that environment, when I was like 17, 18, 19, I loved training in theater, right? Like back then we were doing vocal exercises and vocal warm-ups and stage combat and movement and like all of these things. And I was like really connected with, my body and my being, but I'd gotten away from that. And it was like something about the way that Michael and Amy Port, his wife, they like run Heroic Public Speaking together. Him and his team, they also have backgrounds as actors. Like, so Amy Port she was like a member of one of the biggest Shakespeare festivals in the country for a long time. Right. Like, and so it was like, it felt like this thing bringing me back to this time in my young adult life, like the end of teenagers, the beginning of being an adult, like before that relationship, actually, it was like that moment before that 15-year relationship I was in, it was like bringing me back there. And I was like, there's something about this. And I was like in it. It's like these 2 days. And so then near the end of the 2 days, they tell you about what you can do next, which is this program they have called Grad. So it's called Grad. It was like, it's like the cost of a graduate school program. I didn't went to graduate school.
It really is. It really is. Wait, was it like, because I feel like, was it like 6 figures? Almost-ish.
When I went, it was like a 5-figure situation. I don't know what it is now. This was
I was like I remember looking at me like, oh my gosh, this is like, that was before I had, spent $48,000 on coaching programs and $26,000. I was just like, whoa, yeah.
But it was a 5-figure number. So basically I'm at this conference with like, 300 of my closest new friends or whatever. And we're all being like pitched the same thing, and they have limited spots. And there's like X number of the spots already filled. And it was this sort of like, if the time is now, then jump and join. And looking back, I didn't know about human design then, but like looking back, I totally had this sacral yes, like this irrational sacral yes. And I was just like, I want to do it, even though I did not have the 5 figures of whatever to like sign up for this thing, nor the travel cost, right? So this was the other thing, is that their programs, I'm not sure how they run now. This is like 2018, and I ended up doing it in 2019, but it's like the end of 2018 when I'm about to sign up for this. At the time, they had a big in-person component. So it was like, it would be a 4-month program. And so there would be like 1 week in a month for like 4 months that it would be at their New Jersey headquarters. And I lived in New Orleans at the time. So it's not just like, it's like a whole, I got to buy airfare every time. And it's like a whole thing, like hotels. I was like, oh, it's like 5 figures for just the program, plus all the travel costs, like plus like.
I think that's what I was getting to, because I was like, when I was adding it up, it started getting crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had so this is the other thing. This is October of 2018. I had not only left that 15-year relationship just a couple months prior, but I had also around the same time, my, at the time, full-time day job, director of marketing, that job had kind of gone upside down because the owner of the company had decided to like split and restructure and sell the company. So my full-time job was like a part-time contractor thing now, right? So it's like I still had kind of a job, but it wasn't like the same secure, steady paycheck job. And so I had what was a sacral yes, but I didn't have that language for it.
Yeah.
And me, with my split definition and channel of logic, was try to text all of my other speaker friends, right? Like, I mean, because I would attend, there's a National Speakers Association, and I would attend those chapter meetings back home. So I knew other people who were kind of like understood this world to some extent. And I was sort of like asking their opinions. And almost every friend was like, that's crazy. Don't do it. That's too much money. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I still was like, I think I want to do it. It makes no sense. Why do I want to do this?
You're bringing me back to like the first ever like company where my flower hair accessories are like, that can't scale. And it was like, there's so many things. It's like, I can see how people will be like, that's not going to pay out. You're not going to make the money. And it's like, the world has changed so much. And it just feels like people are constantly projecting into the future and they're wrong. Like they're so wrong. And so you did the thing.
Yeah. So I did the thing. I ended up like just listening to myself, like open a new credit card or something to like be able to like initially, sign up for the thing.
You took major risk with the thing.
Yeah, I took major risks with the thing. So then like the in-person sessions start in like early 2019, right? And as soon as I was up there in person, it was like all of the stuff that I needed. And again, this is me also coming through a period of like had just left a really, really long-term relationship and had other like work and career changes. And
it's so interesting because you have such a chart that's like nurturing and providing and community and I just I'm questioning like did it feel like it gave you a new community?
yes.
Then like the weekend I was there, I was like, ooh, like that was the part that I was like, oh, this could be so yummy to have like, and it ended up not being my community, but did you feel like you got a new
yes
community?
Yeah. So that was a huge part of it. So I like spoiler alert, I ended up not only doing the grad program during the spring of 2019, but then when they gave us the option, like, oh, if you want to do it again, some people are so addicted to this thing. I did it again. So I did it back to back in 2019. Which it was there was a couple of people that like reappeared, right, that were crazy like me and were like, let's just do it immediately again, like whatever. But most of the people were different. So I went through with two different cohorts, but each cohort was like this. It really did remind me of those summers that I did the Shakespeare Festival or when I used to do theater. And like, because if you've never done theater, or like people I know who work in film or something, right? It's like you come together with all of these people to make this thing for a very short period of time and you get really, really close and then it's over, right? But I think that there's beauty in that. It's like, I've had this conversation with Shivala. I love art that is ephemeral, that sort of only lives for a short period of time. And then, whoever witnesses it and whoever was supposed to witnessed it, and whoever didn't, like, it's not,
What I think the beauty of this one was that you got the completion. Like, so for me, what I realized, and as I'm listening to you, is I did a lot of programs and I thought I was learning different things. And sometimes I was like truly following my gut and having these beautiful experiences like the one you had. Other times I was buying belonging. Like I felt like I spent so much of my journey buying community or buying belonging. And sometimes that's totally okay. I mean, because it works out. But for me, what would happen is I would try to buy belonging and buy community. And then my energy was so catalytic. And I didn't choose spaces like the ones you chose that were more aligned or more, like in alignment with what you needed at the time. And so then things would end or not complete. And I didn't leave with that satisfaction of, oh, we had our moment happen and now it's gone, because I didn't ever enter those spaces understanding the moment that was meant to happen was me catalyzing a shift within that community. Does that land?
Mm-hmm.
And or I wasn't happy about that. Like I knew it might happen, but I didn't want to be me. Like I didn't want to be the one to create change. Does that land? At HPS, it was so fascinating. I ended up going to the vocal lessons, and they were trying to correct language. And we ended up in a really interesting situation in that class because they were essentially suggesting what was good and what was not good. And in the not good category ended up being anyone who spoke, like if you kind of took African Americans in the United States speaking in certain pronunciations, or even someone from the South, or anyone who like drawl and this and that, we would say it's not good. And so I'm in this class and they're saying all the things, and Cardi B was on the rise at that time. And I'm like, but if you applied what you just said to me and Cardi B had gone through your course, all of her language would have changed. And so much of Cardi B and what made Cardi B like pop was her voice. And people loved her voice. And then they said, oh, well, people love like foreign accents. Specifically, they were talking about London and the in and out of these accents. And I was like, that sounds just like when Cardi B speaks to me, but why do we love this one, but we don't love that one? So it brought in race. I didn't mention race once, but I'm like, why do we love this one? I do love, and that was kind of a shock for her.
Yeah. And you ended up with a different vocal teacher than I, like they brought somebody else in that I had never dealt with. And
so that was a shock for her. And then it was a whole conversation. I had a conversation with both of the founders. It's like a whole experience. Mm-hmm. But the funny part is, because you were so transparent and honest at the beginning of the experience and told me that they were working through these things, etc., because I went in there eyes wide open, knowing that they wanted to, or they were saying that they wanted to make progress in these spaces, that whole situation still felt like a great experience for me and completion, because I knew why I was there. I still got to enjoy some of the elements you're talking about. And I understood that my presence from your perspective was needed because the growth was needed. And so when all of that went down, I was like, oh, okay. And I think there was a tiny bit of disappointment because I don't know that they followed up on some of the things, but it wasn't like a big thing because I kind of let it go and knew that wasn't my place. But it was this really amazing experience of like feeling like I could just be my full self, not because I belonged in that community, but because you, the person who sent me there, told me that I was needed. Does that make sense? You're like, they're going to need the things that come out of your mouth or your presence. And because of that, I felt free and I did my thing and I still enjoyed it. That vocal lesson class up until that point, like, was quite life-changing. I really enjoyed it. It was really special for me to really think about warming up my vessel, all these things. So like huge, even, and still felt complete. Does that land?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing when you're talking about your story is how you said yes to your sacral and you ended up in this situation and you got community that was maybe even temporary, but you got to like go through this process, complete it. And then because of that, you were like, let's do it again because this is filling me up.
Well, and the other thing beyond community that container really gave me that year, especially in that moment in particular, because it was the full next year that I was coming out of this like relationship and like learning to be really on my own for the first time in my adult life, honestly. It gave me that like community. It gave me that travel of like physically taking me to a different place outside of my normal environment, like on a regular basis. Right. And also one of the things with that program, especially for the first round that I did it, right? There was a virtual component that was kind of at the beginning where we wrote kind of like a shitty first draft of a script, essentially, right? And then we got to refine that draft of the script for, the speech or whatever it was through the course of like rehearsal and talking it out in front of people. And so I was working on what eventually became my one-person show, but a lot of that was like me processing a lot of the stuff that I had hidden away and the stuff that I had gone through and the stuff that I had learned coming through and out of that relationship.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think that's what people miss sometimes when they're trying to assess these experiences. Like your friends were trying to say, like, okay, this is not going to be worth it, but worth it for you in that moment was really like all of the healing that came through that experience, not just the like skill set that you thought you may be receiving. Let's talk about the debt though. Like you took on some debt there.
I did.
And you opened up a whole new credit card. Was it worth it? And was there a purpose to that other than paying for the thing?
Yeah, because then, that definitely then got me into a situation so this was all 2019, right? And I was still doing work. I was like doing some contract work. It was just less and, less money, less stability than previously. And I was like adding like travel expenses to this. But the whole time I was working towards transitioning to a new career as a full-time professional speaker. That was my plan, right? To the point that even in the middle of 2019, or it was, in that spring cohort when I'm like going back and forth to New Jersey, writing my script, I did a small speaking engagement in New Orleans at New Orleans Entrepreneur Week. So kind of like a TEDx style short, like 15-minute thing. And I ended up having this inspiration of like wanting to do the full idea, the full version, the full, like, Eric Wall who paints on stage, but like my version of it with sequence and everything. I was like, I have to make that happen in order to have something to show people because nobody else is doing this. Like there's nothing else to point people to as an example. Speaking of trying to be like not misunderstood and like not confuse people. I'm like, if I could just show them.
I need to be the example, right?
Yeah,
like
I need to be the example. I need to show them what I'm talking about, right? So I was like, well, the best way to do that is for me to just rent out the theater where I've previously done drag and burlesque, hire a friend who's worked in theater, who has like a background as like a theater director, hire another friend to film me, right? Like invite all of my friends to buy tickets to this thing, and so this is what I did. So the summer of that year, I ended up like renting out this theater, like, did a bunch of rehearsals with this friend of mine that I paid to like, co-produce this thing, and then got video of it and then cut the video together into a trailer essentially. And with my background in like marketing and search engine optimization and everything, put together a new website, put together the video. And like a month later, I got an inbound inquiry because somebody had found this video. It was a Texas university who had like another speaker for this event, like fall through, and they kind of needed to like fill something for fairly quickly. And suddenly I had my first paid speaking engagement.
And what's wild is like, for that to happen, you got to like fully step in and commit more funds to the process. Yeah. And that's, as I was listening to you, I was sitting and thinking about one, how you following your path created opportunity for others, not just for me. And I think I remember seeing you go do your thing, and that gave me my own little zest. And I think we were gonna do remember, what is that conference? South by Southwest. Remember, we were gonna try that together, and like COVID and everything. And actually, because I did that, I got to, even though South by Southwest fell through that year, I still got to be a mentor and like still participate. Like it was a whole thing, but you pulled me through your journey too. I was like, ooh, like, oh, okay, I should do some of this too. Like I was like, you had so much energy that the people who that path was also aligned with got inspired and invigorated, and little activations throughout that. But then beyond that, you paid people within your tribe, as we would sticking with the human design theme, to support you. And I'm thinking as I go through this is like this moment, and I'm just thinking about our own experience where it's like, once you take that financial risk with your sacral, I think we made someone make a joke in the last pod where they're like, your sacral is expensive. And I'm like, when you take that risk, you gotta be willing to take the like 6 other risks that come with it. It's like, okay, you're gonna buy the program, but then you're gonna need to actually complete the thing to get the results of the program. And that's where I think some people get gun shy, where it's like, I bought the thing, but they're like, now I don't have finances to do the next step. And what I have found, the journey of following my sacral is just going and going and going and going, to the tune, by the way, of like $400,000 over a couple, like consistently over 6 figures a year for like several years while figuring it out. But then money would just come in, but I wouldn't know how, and it wasn't logical, and it wouldn't balance out. But if I didn't keep taking the leap, so the leap is not one leap, but then several leaps, until you get to a place where you get the return. Is that true for like, that's what I'm seeing in your story? And has that been true for you throughout in different ways?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of that. I think too, like because you asked about like I had all this debt, and I did. So then when like COVID shut down everything, because I was like full on gunning, I was like doing all of these things. I was starting to get bookings. I had a plan for like how I was going to continue to pursue this, right? We were both supposed to speak at South by Southwest in 2020. That didn't happen. And then especially for the speaking world, I mean, conferences, like any sort of events that speakers would be at, were like hugely hit.
Yeah.
And lots of speakers who were already established did pivot to do virtual stuff. And I picked up some virtual stuff too. What I found pretty quickly was that the virtual stuff doesn't like that, this is fine, but this is different than like pretending as if you're talking to a, like, I don't know. It's just like
it wasn't filling your cup.
It was different. There was like some other stuff too, but then it was like, so like 2020, the months go on and it's clear the world is different now for the foreseeable future. I got to figure some stuff out, right? Like I remember meeting with kind of like a business coach friend, and him framing it as like, I needed to keep the fire going. Like it was starting to get a little chilly. The fire was starting, like I had to figure out a way to get the fire started, right? And then other things did, like that's actually around the time that I ended up doing the adjunct professor for Tulane, was around that time.
Okay, I was gonna say, because then you went into that realm.
Yeah, because a friend of mine was working in that department, and she had mentioned that they were looking for professors. And it was funny because a few years before that, somebody else who had worked in that department had like kind of courted me to create a course for them. And at the time, it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't quite worth it. But then it suddenly was the right time, right? And so other opportunities did come. So there is the element of that. But then the other thing was like kind of, I guess towards the end of that year, I kind of also, there was somebody else kind of in our craftcation circles that I was like kind of following her journey from afar. We weren't super close, but I noticed her sort of like leaning into some of this more like spiritual stuff and seeing like visible changes in her and her life. And I saw her mention like a specific money coach, right? And just this like kind of was starting to open myself up to some other ways of thinking about stuff. Ended up like doing a small program that shifted some of my thoughts and started to unpack some like old money stories that were not helping me anymore, right? And being more open to some of this spiritual woo stuff, for lack of a better word. But then also, that was also around the time that I found and really started using YNAB, the budget software. You Need a Budget, which I still use kind of like religiously to this day. because the logic part of me that is built in, that is wired, that is part of me, also needed a framework and a structure and a system to like make sense of this sort of income that was very variable.
Well, and what's really fun for you is like you have, so right now we're in 38 and the other half of that is the game player. So you're here to learn the high, like at the highest, like how to take risk and how to take risks in life. And some of that is learning how to be more prepared in your risk taking after learning certain things. And but it sounds like there was also some financial stuff that needed to be worked through, and this puts you in a position to work through it.
It forced me, kind of forced me.
Well, ironically, you chose it and you were not, you didn't realize how much you were choosing.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I could have chosen to not deal with it even then.
True. But you chose to then jump on it.
Yeah.
But I also meant you chose it the minute you chose the speaking opportunity. And that I think comes back to something we highlighted from the beginning, which is like the bigness. I'm still on the bigness. You saying yes to that speaking opportunity turned into you clearing up some love wounds, stepping into your confidence, reconnecting with your childhood self, cleaning up financial stuff, bringing people like me along the way. And when we say yes, I think sometimes our bodies can feel the bigness, but putting that into words is almost impossible. And coming back to like that idea of surrender and things like that, we really don't know. Shall we tell this fun story about not knowing?
Do I know which story? You might have to start because I don't know what story.
Well, I was we were in my office, and Mallory had been having like a tickle in her throat, and I had this amazing and extremely potent OSHA root. For anyone who knows OSHA, this medicine, bear medicine, it has to be dug up by hand. I was able to source some when I was in New Mexico. And it's so potent that like if you walk into my pantry, you smell it, it clears your nose without you even like consuming it. So I gave some to Mallory, and she comes into the office and she's drinking it already. And she says, what'd you say? Like, what is this going to do? What is this?
Yeah. I think it was like, what is this going to do to me? Like,
and what was my answer?
You're like, I don't know. And I sort of had this response of like, wait, what? Like, yeah, because you give somebody a Tylenol, you have an idea of it's.
She freaked out. What do you know? You don't mean you don't like you gave this to me, and I was like, I know what the herb does. I know what the herb does. Like, and realistically, I know what the herb does. I've taken the herb multiple times. I've given the herb to people in my family. I've studied the herb. I've sat with indigenous healers who literally go and like dig up the root. I've been given this root. I think the root that you had was actually given to me by an indigenous healer, my Apache Shichu. Like it's like we're familiar. Like we're in communion with this medicine. However, I have no clue what it's going to do when Mallory consumes it.
Right.
And I told you that, and then I think you calmed down. And
because I think the intent of my question was really, what does this herb do?
Herb do?
Like, why did you give me this herb? But I framed it in a way that was different language, which was technically asking a different question to which you responded quite literally. And
you framed it in the way that most people would frame it. But with who I am, my response is honest. Like, I don't know. And I bring that because like, I feel like that's like the theme, like for you in such this fun way of like, I don't know, like, and like I, even when we engaged in our, like the big leap we took together, I was like, I don't know how long you're going to be here. I even said to you, I was like, I need you to commit to me for just this many months because that part I like, but it was like I relish in the fact that you are so unexpected. But in reality, what I feel like you show me every day is like none of us know. But what's cool is our bodies can feel things deeply. And we have this connection to whatever you believe in, source, divine, etc. And for you, it's been so cool because you were way more woo-woo than me growing up and had exposure to like all of that. Maybe you didn't embody it, but that was there in your life. And
I had more of it in my periphery. I might not have been even leaning in as much as other people around me, but yeah.
yeah, but you're in Louisiana, like you have all this exposure, and I'm like all this stuff was like to me. And so it's just cool to see you fully like playing and experimenting and engaging your body. And like I've just been enjoying this, and I just want to say thank you for sharing vulnerably today about the leaps that you've been taking. um so I want to, if it's okay with you, I want to throw up.
Yeah, you want to talk about the leap where I'm gonna join you in Tulum this spring, and other people can come if they feel so called to make that leap with us.
I want to tell them about that. And then I want to throw in a couple of things. So, one, shebala.com is my website. If you are watching this on Badass Creatives and you know Mallory, then y'all get some perks. And so, for Mallory's people, she does have like a special code, literally code Mallory. And so feel free to use that if you happen to be watching the podcast and you're not Mallory's bestie yet, you can use it too. But that will give you 10% off of services and anything else that we put up there. But this is a really special opportunity. I know we have just started the year, but very soon into the year, we will be deep into eclipse season, which is wild when you think about it. And for those of you who are new to like spiritual journeys and things like that, eclipse season is this time of year where things can get chaotic, but the energy is there for massive change. And so for you, if you want to step into your abundance, your prosperity, into your new, into your most creative self, this is the moment where universe is saying, I'm giving you some cues. And we are going to be in Tulum. So I'll be there from the 13th to 19th doing partnership with another partner, Jajahan. And Jajahan, Mallory, and I will be there. This is the in progress website. So it has not launched yet. It is going to be up starting the 6th of January. And we are going to be there in 53 days, 15 hours, 53 minutes, and 52 seconds. And I don't want to go super into detail, but just to say that in this rebirth experience, we really believe that at least I believe, and I'll let you speak, but I want to talk a little bit about the agenda, but I believe, Mallory, and I believe this because I've seen this. Like, I have seen, and I've seen us. So I have evidence of this miracle. Mallory and I, it didn't come up. We did this retreat once. I did a retreat with a partner in Texas, and Mallory came and she facilitated. And I think you also did like a karaoke session.
We did do a karaoke session.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've kept up with the people who came through in that experience, but I have.
I know you've told me about at least one of them that had some big.
What did I tell you about Koi?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we had one
person. Wearing her earrings.
And
I have earrings from her.
And she was like just coming into her artist and like she was like terrified and selling her earrings. And we bought those earrings. And just a few, like maybe a year later, she was blowing up on the internet selling pottery, which is what she really wanted to get into. Her happy face mug went viral. She ended up in an Instagram commercial. She ended up opening like an actual physical location. She hired people. But at the time of booking the retreat, she basically like didn't know what she wanted to do, was driving Uber, knew she wanted to do art, and she was having just a moment that everything wasn't aligning, and she literally like drove Uber to be able to come to that retreat. Very different time. This is very much a luxury retreat, 4-star hotel on the beach type vibe. That was not that. She worked her booty off, I think I think it was a couple $100s at the time. And she changed her life. And everyone in that retreat, Mallory, has made like catalytic changes. And we were doing art and just sharing frameworks. And this was way before there was any medicine woman. And this was way before we had the depth of experience that we have today.
Yeah.
And so for me, I know that the people who choose to come to this with what we have planned and with eclipse season are going to bloom into individuals that will shape this new moment that we're leaning into, and that will truly be able to hold space for the change that is coming in this world that we do not get to choose, and for the bigness that comes with it and the opportunities that come with it. And that the folks who move through this will have frameworks that will allow them to take the leap time and time and time again, so that they can get to that completion and feel like, okay, I'm doing the thing in the way that feels so fucking yummy and aligned. Those are my thoughts. What do you believe, Mallory?
I mean, hallelujah, amen to what you just said.
Is there anything that you would like to add? I just say it that way.
I mean, if you want to come hang out and dance with me,
let's talk about the fun. Yes.
Dance with me on the beach in Mexico. I think that's supposed to happen. Apparently, I'm also just going to be like hanging out and chatting with everybody, listening in reflection sessions.
Yes. So what Mallory is finding out is that I like to share. And so first off, Mallory is going to be potentially offering the Borrow by Chief of Staff service, where she will be doing listening and reflection sessions as long as she wants to do them. And so if you are interested in that, she's back. She's here. She's all of her, and she can support you on your journey in that way. And so definitely check out what she's doing on her website. But for a little bit more, like, I would say like they're going to be different offerings, but certainly the ones on my page will be like a spiritually connected, grounded, less coaching type experience. Whereas Mallory still is a badass coach, right? So she will have all of her in both places. Check her out on shibala.com. And then when we get to said retreat, we are going to be moving through 7 days of play. And so we are literally going to be doing ritual. So we'll get in and we're going to be doing candle ritual. We're going to be working with a local medicine family and do a cacao ceremony. We're going to have ocean release ritual. Mallory's going to be there as a traveling partner throughout much of the experience. And you're going to have the opportunity to do one-on-one reflection sessions with her. So there'll be a sign up for my Craftcation family. The way we used to have office hours, we will have them essentially at this retreat. And as we're moving through this journey, and our partner for this experience, Jajahan, is bringing art, we will be there. Mallory is going to be like supporting, and also almost like your buddy assistant, and sorry, participant. So essentially your peer. So she'll be actually going through the experience and supporting, and that just brings a different lens to the whole thing. And then what I wanted to highlight here specifically is this full expression dinner. because Mallory is the queen of full expression, and she'll be leading us. We're gonna leading the organization of this full expression dinner where you come out as your full self in that. And also for anyone who's maybe having some trepidation in that, this is the lady to talk to. And then we're also going to have at the end a closing celebration that's magical movement with Mallory. And then Mallory, I, and Jaji are going to be moving. And what's funny, we didn't even talk about this, but we are going to be sharing different movement methods in the morning. So Mallory recently completed her yoga certification. And so she'll be integrating all of her beautiful movement from dance, which she's been doing forever, to yoga, to all the things. And so we will be doing a mix of qigong, yoga, breathwork, sometimes me, sometimes Mallory. I may take it over. She may do things. And that's just like an added bonus to the existing experience. And frankly, it's like the decompression element, because the people who are choosing this are signing up for the intensity of a very structured experience in terms of some of the information and content we're going to be delivered, and like straight up woo woo in the best of woo woo ways. I love that word and I own it. Like, I love it. My company, my product company is called Woofulness. And so that, like, we're going through ceremony. So we'll have conversation, we'll have ceremony. And then Mallory is really bringing the fun and some beautiful, yummy reflections. And so that is it. That is the world, part of the world we're creating. Shall we tell them anything else? Oh, and Woofulness. Woofulness is coming. Mallory's been helping with candles. I just feel like with this audience, we should just tell people that we are still crafting. Like, we are still here.
We are still crafting. Yes. You only see that one room. You don't see the whole house behind it that I know is full of candle supplies.
Yeah. It is so full.
And crystals. There's a closet of crystals upstairs, y'all.
Oh
like,
gosh, we're creating, and that is, yeah, that'll be for another day. And then with Mallory's permission, I'll be streaming again on this channel to specifically go through her human design. So if you were like, what is this thing that y'all are talking about? We're going to be talking specifically about Mallory's human design, and it's a fun one. So that's coming up soon. And thank you for those who joined on Prosperity Artists. Thank you for everyone on Badass Creatives. Just thank you for being here.
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shibala. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mallory. I love you.
I love you.